What's up, hybrids? Welcome back to another episode of the Phantom Hybrid Podcast. This is Hanako, and I am here with Anthony and Mike, and we are discussing the last two episodes of the What If series. We decided we were going to go ahead and discuss both episodes together since they're both dealing with the trial and the outcome of the trial of the Watcher, who has found himself in a little bit of trouble because of his interference into all of the multiverse stuff. So, let's get started. I'm going to start with Mike first, because are you glad that we got to see Byrdie the Duck as an adult?
I am, and shout out to Natasha Lyonne for giving her the absolute spot on perfect voice for it. Like I loved her in this. It was awesome. But the thing I loved most, and the reason I've waited for this moment, is because we got Storm in this bitch. We finally have an X-Men, so a member of the X-Men in a What If episode. And I'm excited for this
X-Men in the MCU confirmed.
100%.
Well, technically, it was confirmed with Deadpool and Wolverine, but
I mean, technically, it was confirmed with the Marvels when they had Beast in there, and it was confirmed.
Technically, it was confirmed with the adamantium celestial island, but we'll
talk about that later.
Confirmed when Quicksilver was in WandaVision, and they switched him to Adam.
Wait a minute, so now that we're saying all of this, I'm realizing just how much they're pulling the X-Men into the MCU, and they just been kind of throwing it in little hints there. But regardless,
but Storm. Like her power level, her wielding Mjolnir, like, oh my god, that was beautiful. And also, I like it also because most of my favorite What If episodes have something to do with the X-Men. Like, one of my favorites is what if Charles Xavier got the gem of Satorak instead of his brother, and he became Juggernaut, which is it's a really good comic. And they've done a lot of. I actually have a couple in my What If collection. I have a couple of the X-Men and the Avengers did something I can't remember, but they're a big part of What If, and I'm a little surprised that it took them this long to actually include them. But yes, I love both of these episodes. Shout out to Marvel for giving us a Dragon Ball Z fight scene in the final episode where they were just like fighting all over the fucking skyline, and that shit was beautiful. And shout out to Uatu just being a menace, like turning all four of them into fucking Watchers and making them like giving them a shortcut oath. I'm like,
listen.
This is why you in trouble now. This is why you doing all this, because you just all willy-nilly about your Watcherness, just throwing it here and there. I mean, fuck. But having said that, they were fucking phenomenal. Like, holy shit. Peggy Carter was a fucking beast as a fucking Watcher.
I'm so glad they did bring her back for these two episodes, because I think we had just mentioned it like maybe a couple of episodes ago, talking about this series, that we had not seen Peggy Carter at all in this third season, which was kind of weird considering at the end of last season, Uatu like literally showed her the tree and told her the truth about the multiverse. So it was kind of strange that she hadn't popped up yet. So I'm glad that she showed up in this one. And not only you have her, you have Byrdie the Duck, you have Storm, you have Kahhori. So it's like we in this series with four very strong women characters who literally save the fucking multiverse.
Yeah, this literally the Watcher's version of Charlie's Angels, and I am here for every last piece of that. Literally, it's awesome.
That's an interesting point. Anthony, what did you think about these final two episodes?
I didn't hate them. I'll start with that.
That's a start.
I didn't hate them. Okay, I'm gonna reference back to what I said before. I had to kind of step back and just say, it is what it is, and just kind of enjoy it. But it is very, very difficult because now I'm looking at it like objectively from a fresh point of view. These people are so freaking overpowered. Like, they are so overpowered. And then they go up against the Watchers, and he makes them even more overpowered. And then in the end, you in order to defeat them, you had to have an even more overpowered individual, well, universe to stop them.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like it was getting kind of out of hand. Like there's a thing in video games called power creep, and it even happens in comic books. Power creep is real, and I understand that it does happen in comic books. Like the Invisible
Can you
Woman.
explain power creep, sir?
Oh yeah, power creep is when you have individuals who are powerful, and then they have to fight powerful people, and in order for them to defeat them, they have to become even more powerful. For example, Jean Grey with the Phoenix Force. So she gets more powerful. She's like reality. She's like right now she is the creation of life itself. And then the villain comes in who absorbs her power. So she has to become even more powerful. Which how can she be defeated if she is so powerful? And here we have, imagine Storm, who's an omega level mutant who can control weather anywhere. Anywhere. She has Mjolnir, which makes her the god of thunder. Everywhere. And now she's a watcher. I don't know. And then we were already told that Byrdie is a cosmic being who is ultimately OP. And then you have Kahhori, who does whatever she can. Like super speed, I gotcha. Flying, I gotcha. Portals, I gotcha. Telekinesis, I gotcha. What can she not do? And I'm looking at this group, these guardians of the multiverse, and I'm like, wow, how are they going to defeat the Watchers? The answer is obvious: become Watchers. and it was ridiculous. I will give them credit for the special effects. Like it made me think of the first episode, like how good the animation was. It was really, really good, really fantastic. Voice work, really fantastic. Not feeling the story too much. I watched it again this afternoon, and I found myself laughing. This is funny. I'm like, this is ridiculous. It really is. But you know, it's cool. I see what they're doing. You know, I think they're getting us ready for, because we're gonna see something like this when we get to Secret Wars, probably. Right. And hopefully they don't go to Supreme Strangers universe to have the Secret Wars. He'll just shut everybody's powers off and call it a day. But I did like the Eminence's opening. If you listen to it, he's really, really good. It's really good. The one thing he said is, I can't remember what he said, but he basically was like, no, it's not. He described it and he said, but that's not what it is. This is what people think it is, but that's not what it is. What it is a prism through which there's an infinite number of universes. Possibilities. Yeah. And he explains, he says, where every little decision can cause a change. And that's the nature of What If. I just don't feel like we got it. So I kind of feel bad that they went back to that and put that in his monologue when that's really not what we got this season. I mean, overall, it was okay. I mean, I can see how some people would enjoy it and think it's amazing and, be excited about it. But yeah, it was just all right to me.
Okay.
I like the last episode, not the last episode, but I like the previous episode with Shang-Chi better.
Okay. Yeah.
Then both of them?
Yes, then both of them.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. I'm kind of sort of in the middle because.
No, in Infinity Ultron, kind of let me down. I was like, dude, really? All that power? But
yeah, but it's like
that shows you how powerful the Watchers are. This guy wiped out the entire universe.
But look, you gotta think about it like this too. When he was fighting the Watcher was giving as good as he was getting for a second until Ultron caught him. Like he was literally giving him those hands. So
yeah, it was like, oh, surprise, surprise! He flashed a bright light in my face. Okay, now I'm used to it.
Right. And then but it's like because Uatu got his power from the eminence. So it's like the eminence, it would go to show the eminence has been a watcher for way longer than Uatu has. So his power level is probably ridiculous. All three of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Ultron can shape reality, but whatever.
Yeah, but it's like they basically are reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, I kind of fall in between both of your opinions. I enjoyed the episodes. I won't say they were my favorite. There were certain elements of it that I really liked. I really liked the friendship aspect between the women in the episode, just kind of seeing the closeness and seeing how well they work together in order to figure out the problem, in order to, execute a plan and do all this. I like that. I think the weird thing for me was at the beginning of the episode when they're trying to help oh my god, why did I just blank? They went to go help
not Gamora.
Nebula.
Nova's Prime Nebula which
Prime,
which was really weird.
I'm glad they threw back to that because I think that episode is one of my favorite episodes of all the what ifs. I think that's probably one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah. But when the shards come through and Peggy sees the shards and she realized it's from the
Watcher.
From the fifth dimension or from the observational plane.
Observational plane. Yeah.
When she realizes it's from the observational plane and she realizes it's for the Watcher, she is actually not the one that voices it. It's Kahhori that says that means the Watcher. And it was strange to me because I think we talked about this a few episodes ago where only a few people knew about Uatu's existence, and that being Peggy Carter, that being Natasha Romanoff, and I really think that's it.
Infinity Ultron knew he existed.
Infinity Ultron.
Well, Infinity Ultron, but for Kahhori and Storm and Byrdie the Duck to all kind of know who he is, and it seemed like they had not just a surface level knowledge of him. They kind of knew, I guess, everything that Peggy knew about him. So it was just kind of weird. Yes, Anthony, you have your hand up.
In my head canon, I assumed, I may be right or wrong, I assumed that Peggy put this team together with his help. So, because I lovingly call them the Guardians of the Multiverse after the previous Guardians of the Multiverse. But I think she went out, he and her, which is, according to the eminence, she's the wicked. She had she used his knowledge to find the people that can help her do what they need to do.
Okay.
And I think that's how they knew about him. I think they may have talked before they met him, or or Peggy told them about him, but she put this team together.
Yeah. And I realized that there's also not necessarily a time jump, but it's been a while because the last time we saw Byrdie, she was just born, and now she's a full grown adult. So I realized some time has taken place and some things may have happened in between there, but it was just strange for me for them to be speaking about the Watcher and the observational plane and all of that so familiar. They were so, it was strange to me.
Yeah, and Peggy probably told them about the stuff that she's done. She probably told them about Infinity Ultron because they were like, "Oh, really? You want to get that guy? Well, he's dead. Well, it's multiverse. Yeah, there's a version of him out there somewhere."
Yeah.
Which is really intimidating to think about. Like, that's a powerful motherfucker. There are like more versions of this motherfucker out there that they need to destroy. Also, I agree with you because like when they first reached Xandar, Peggy was in the Kane capsule, and she said, "Set course for Xandar 625. I have eyes on the Hydra champion." So they're obviously doing something where they're course correcting things that are going wrong, or like I said, they're they're Uatu's angels. They're like he's basically sending them on missions to fix things in the multiverse that aren't supposed to be happening.
And
mostly because they're his fault.
Being a menace because he's like,
but see, all these things are his fault because he's the one that's doing shit, doing all this extra shit and not just watching. Like he's the one that's interfering. So all his interferences probably are having a butterfly effect on the whole multiverse. Where if he changes one, like when he saved that kid from getting thrown off the train in the previous episode, he probably created a butterfly effect that probably created this Hydra on Xandar. It's like there are all kinds of things that he fucking balances up, and that's why all three of them are like, reel this motherfucker in. I'm tired of this. We got
because I sort of agree with the Eminence because he probably he's seen every permeation of every possibility, period. If it wasn't for Uatu, we wouldn't have Doctor Strange wouldn't have his own universe, right? If it wasn't for Uatu, a lot of the stuff that's happening wouldn't be happening. If he kept his mouth shut, Infinity Ultron wouldn't have done what he did, which created all this other crap that's happening.
Yeah.
So he sort of has a point. I mean, but Uatu has a point too. Like, at what point do you how much can you sit by and not do anything and not start caring for people? But the Eminence has had eons to deal with that question, and it seems like Uatu didn't. But because even when they did the flashback to when Uatu was promoted to Watcher, he asked the question like, basically, what are we supposed to do with watching? And the Eminence is like, well, I'll be surprised to find out what answer you found to that question. Well, you found out what the answer was to that question.
Yeah.
So he could be blamed for setting these events in motion because he should have seen how, even by his questioning, like anytime you have a person entering into a cult that starts to question what the cult is doing, that can create problems for the cult because then that person is starting to question the dogma that you've created.
Yeah.
Then that person might become a problem. And the Uatu became a menace. He started messing with things and was probably going to cause the collapse of the multiverse. In the Eminence, they're sitting there, well, it's not going to affect us. It probably has happened before. We don't know. He's probably seen a lot of this stuff happen before. And he's like, yeah, it's going to work itself out in the end.
Or Uatu's probably not the first one of the Watchers that he's had to rein in and get rid of. Like he's probably made other Watchers, then they interfered and they're like, nope, get him. And that's why they had an opening for Uatu, because they just got rid of one that was doing the exact same fucking thing that he's doing now. So it's like, he just can't get call him Uatu can't get right because he just can't do what he's supposed to fucking do.
But see,
but I kind of agree with Uatu too.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, because it's kind of like, if you're one of the things about I can't remember what the collective group is called, the three Watchers that are over everything. One of the things about them is they are watching the Watchers, and the Watchers are the ones who have their own sections of the universe or the multiverse to watch. So it's kind of like you wouldn't expect those three to be changed by anything, because they are not really watching anything or paying attention to anything closely enough to be affected on the level that Uatu is. Uatu is actually watching these beings in this particular part of the universe. He's seeing their struggles, he's seeing their stories, he's being affected by the humanity of them, which I don't think the other three would ever have the opportunity to do, because they don't interact with the humans directly or indirectly. It's kind of like 6 degrees of separation. So while I understand what the Eminence is saying as far as what Uatu was expected to do or how he was expected to behave, I think because Uatu was so close to humanity, he was able to allow it to change him, whether he wanted it to or not. But that's one of the things I think about people when it comes to like cosmic beings and humanity and universe, because all of these cosmic beings, no matter what type of show we watch, they always think they're more superior to humanity, right? Because we have the emotions and we're the ones who let those emotions kind of affect the way we think, the way we act. We don't kind of keep ourselves arm's length. And I think that's one of the things that Uatu is trying to, as like he says at the end, this is something that I can teach you, because it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's almost like when Infinity Ultron was talking about it, he said, I was created to, bring about peace. And in order to bring about peace, I eliminated all life. But what I have learned is that this is not peace. It's just emptiness. Like, you can't have life without people, but you can't have peace without conflict. Like, there has to be a balance, yin and yang. There has to be that balance in the universe. And I think that's one of the things that Uatu was trying to tell the other three. But the other three, they're so far removed from it that they don't have the openness to actually sit there and listen to what he's saying, or to look at what he's doing, to say, hey, he might actually be improving things. It may be catastrophes for them, or it may be chaos for them, but it's because you're so set in this one focus, this one thing. Oh, it has to go this way, this way, this way, and you don't allow for those variables. Maybe that's why things are fucking up, because y'all are so inflexible. Maybe it has nothing to do with him.
I had 2 points I was gonna make. I can only remember one. So you got the three. It's this is one of my issues with the Eminence, and it's sort of related to kind of piggybacking off of what Hanako said. They are literally sitting in their white tower, removed from everything, and they have this elitist attitude about everything. Like, completely, we are above reproach. We are above all of this. But
that's not topical.
Oh, excuse me.
That's not topical at all. No.
Yeah, you are, and nothing can touch you, and everything that you're doing is so altruistic and so perfect. Like, who appointed y'all to this position? You appointed yourselves to this. And it's very similar to how they're looked at in the comic books. If you watch the comic books, a lot of people got problems with the Watchers because you are doing what you're doing because you decided that's what you want to do. No one asked you to be a Watcher. No one appointed you to be the scribe for the multiverse. No one asked you to do that. You chose to do that. So by you not participating, you not helping people, and you not being a part of the process, you're making it worse for a lot of people than it could be. But I understand him completely. There's an infinite number of multiverses. There's no possible way one being can destroy them all. Because for every one that you destroy, another one springs up. Because every decision, every consequence creates another universe. So it's not possible to get rid of all of them. I understand that. Well, in that same token, it doesn't hurt you to help some people every once in a while.
Right.
And that's what Uatu is doing. He had his little section of multiverses that he was watching. And if he can make a difference to help, how many times is he going to have to sit there in his section universe and watch Riri Williams die? Like, every version of her die.
Right.
Over and over and over again.
Right.
I give this one a chance. Let me give this one a chance. And what you do, like you said, you prune some of the bad ones and it causes life to flourish. Right? Yeah. So he saves her. How many multiverses that are created where she makes a difference and changes people's lives for the better? Yeah.
That's true. It's the butterfly effect.
I can't remember the point. But yeah.
anything you do in one universe is going to inadvertently or advertently affect what's going to happen in another universe. It's just how things are. It's just how it works in these kind of scenarios, in these kind of situations. It's like there's always something minor that you change somewhere that's going to wreak havoc somewhere else. It's like,
and that's why Watchers get their asses kicked in the comic books, because people don't like what they do. You sit there off to the side and you watch all this pain and suffering, and you could do something to help, but you choose not to. Yeah, it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think Reed Richards tried to wipe him out once. I mean, they're terrible. They are.
Okay, so speaking of watchers getting their asses kicked, let's talk about this fight scene.
Man,
Because
this is one of the best anime fight scenes Disney has ever put on. Like that shit looks straight up like Dragon Ball Z. Like when Uatu and the Eminence were fighting, it's like their hands were moving so fucking fast. Like, oh my god.
mm-hmm. I mean, it was there were so many aspects to it because yes, I did get a Dragon Ball Z vibe to it when I saw some of it. And then there was a point where I can't remember which one it was. Kahhori was fighting one, and then another one appeared behind her, and he was enlarged.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, that's what you're doing? Okay, bet. Let me match that." And then she got big too, and it kind of reminded me of the Agatha and Kingo fight from a few episodes ago, where they were both kind of these celestial beings that were like bigger than everything, and they were fighting in space.
The one that starts with A, yeah.
Ashrat? Ashram?
Asheroth.
It was an Ash. Yes, Ashram. So, yeah, it was. There was a lot going on in those fights, but I love the way that they did them because, like you said, Anthony, you know, when you start out, you have these 4 people, and they're already overpowered. They're already very powerful, and the fact that you have all 4 of them fighting together on the same team, and then you have Infinity Ultron, which was already weird. Even Uatu was like, "Wait, he's with you?" And they're like, "Yeah, he's with us." But then you have Uatu when they're on the verge of defeat. Uatu was like, "Okay, look, there's a way for us to get out of this, but you're gonna have to make an oath." And they're sitting there like, "So you want us to become like them?" And Storm was like, "Look, we'll figure it out afterwards. Just say the damn word so that we can."
Yeah. Byrdie was like, can I see the whatchamacallit? What'd she say? She said she wanted to see the bylaws before she agreed to it.
Yeah, you don't have time to do that because you're getting your ass whooped. But
they didn't have time to go through the 4 pages of oaths that he tried to have them repeat too. He was like, "I state your name, will solemnly swear to da da da." I'm like, "You ain't got time for that." I'm like, "Why are you going through 4 pages of what you're gonna do?" I'm like, he was like, "Oh, fuck it, just say I do."
Right. And then that image of them all in the suit, and this is the first time that we actually see Uatu with legs. You know, it's kind of like they've all got these suits on, and they're all glowing. And I was just like, okay, so we're on a more level playing field. And it still wasn't, because it's almost like it was like watching an old 80s wrestling match with Hulk Hogan. It's like you have one side that's kind of overpowering, and you looks like and it looks like the other team is about to be defeated, and then all of a sudden they have their Hulk Hogan moment, and then it goes the opposite way, and it's just kind of like, who's gonna win and how, and like are they actually gonna have to kill people? Because you really thought at some point that the women were going to kill the Eminence, because he just wouldn't back down no matter how they were getting defeated, no matter what, because he really thought, okay, you know what, we got this, we're the most powerful beings in the universe, we got this. And every time they started getting defeated, he just got to a point where he was like, no, okay, y'all just gonna have to kill me. I'm not giving in, I'm not letting up, I'm not doing nothing.
Like, even when the Uatu showed him mercy, he was like, I ain't teach you everything.
Yeah,
I'm trying to wipe them people out of existence.
And then obviously, you ain't got no power.
When Agatha said mercy is overrated when she was being pursued by the Salem 7, I'm like, you don't do that. I understand, but don't. Like, nah. But I shout out to Peggy grabbing one of the watchers by the roof of his mouth and ragdolling him.
Yeah, like, I was thinking of the puny god moment from Avengers. Yeah,
like seriously.
There was another moment in this episode where one of the 3 watchers did that with
Storm and Byrdie.
Was it? Yeah. And I was like, this looks like, now kiss familiar.
And boom, and like smashed them together. I was like,
and did this thing.
Yeah, he was like,
okay,
and kiss. I was like, shit, that's
and I figured out that's why they had to get rid of Infinity Ultron, because imagine Infinity Ultron with Watcher power. That would have been a problem.
That would have been a huge problem.
That would have been a problem.
That would have been a huge problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I guess I'm kind of torn because these were the last 2 episodes for the What If series. It's done now. And I don't quite know how I feel about it.
I'm glad. I'm happy. It's over.
I'm not.
We don't have to go back, revisit this. If they're not going to do it right, then just don't do it.
And I guess that's the thing, because part of me likes the anthology version of it, like you like, Anthony. But also I feel like the way that they did the first 2 seasons, where you had these little anthologies, but then they kind of came together to make a bigger story, like we're kind of used to the Marvel movies doing. I like that part of it because those first 2 seasons, they made sense in a way, as far as what the end story was for the first season, what the end story was for the second season, how those stories converged and made this bigger story. It made sense and it was good. And I remember like going back listening to our episodes discussing that. We all liked the first 2 seasons better. They just, I don't know, maybe the story was better, the writing was better, maybe it was just because there were characters there that we were used to seeing, and seeing them in different versions of themselves, like T'Challa being Star-Lord and Killmonger having the Black Panther powers. It was just, I don't know, something about the first 2 seasons felt more, I don't know, they felt more cohesive. This season, just, it was kind of like all over the place.
I don't know if it was cohesion as much as they were closer to the spirit of the comic books.
Okay.
Like, what if Killmonger became Black Panther? That's the easy story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
What if Peggy Carter got the super soldier serum instead of Steve?
Right.
Easy story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Those are the kind of stories that What If is known for in the comic book world. Those moments that change everything.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
we can think, if we think of the MCU movies, and what if what's his name defeated Iron Man in Iron Man 2? What if he had actually killed him? Like, what would be the ramifications of that? Or what if they never found Cap? How would Avengers have turned out?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So there are ways, there are things that the decisions that create the what ifs, it made a little bit more sense in those first couple of seasons, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The T'Challa as Star-Lord is still weird to me, but it was fun.
I mean, this season still had some of that. I mean, the one with the Red Guardian and the Winter Soldier was basically a what if, like what if the Red Guardian stopped the Winter Soldier from from killing Howard Stark. So that's a what if.
Yeah, but we didn't get a lot of that. Yeah. I'm saying we didn't get much of that.
I mean, the one with Riri was basically what if the Eternal actually busted through? What would happen?
What if the emergence actually happened?
What if the emergence happened? I mean, I see what you're saying though. I mean, there's some that aren't as good of a what if story as in the previous ones.
Right. Because if you base it on the Eternals, you would say it would have been an Eternals episode. It wouldn't have been a Riri Williams episode. It might, what if the emergence had happened? What if the Eternals didn't stop the emergence?
Right.
It wouldn't necessarily have been about Riri Williams. It would have been about the Eternals.
Well, I mean, after the emergence, I think the Eternals are recalled anyway. So it's like they couldn't have done anything about it.
Yeah.
It's like they would have been recalled by the Celestials to go to another planet and start it all over again.
That's true.
Well, the episode could have been better because it was too. I guess I'm saying it was too much, and it should have been on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
what if Mesmero had defeated or never,
Mysterio.
Mysterio. Sorry,
Who the fuck's
Mysterio.
Mesmero?
Mysterio had defeated Peter Parker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I mean,
I think with that episode, also because you're pulling in so many different elements. You're pulling in the Eternals, you're pulling in Riri Ironheart, you're pulling in Spider-Man, and was there something else in there?
they're pulling in a lot of things.
Yeah, you got
Shang-Chi
and Doctor Strange. So it's so much there.
Because I don't mind them using those stories in those movies, but use them in a meaningful way. Yeah. Like, what if Shang-Chi hadn't stopped the thing from coming through the wall, through the gate? What would that have looked like?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, I wanted it to be more relevant to the stories that we already know. And I guess it's kind of how it is in the comic books.
Yeah, and I guess also too, it's kind of like with the way that with the way that season 1 and season 2 happened, you had these different stories with these certain characters, and then at the end of the season, they all came together for a particular conclusion to that season. First off, with these 2 episodes, these last 2 episodes of the whole series, they really had nothing to do with anything that's happened this season. Nothing except for Byrdie being born. Kahhori was from last season. We haven't seen Captain Carter since last season. Storm, this was her intro into the MCU or What If. Infinity Ultron last season. So nothing that happened in this season had anything to do with these last 2 episodes. And I think that's part of the issue I had with it, because there doesn't seem to be a sense of completion for me.
Okay.
Oh, I remember my other point. It was almost like the writers, whoever the writers were huge fans of Sliders, because that's how Sliders was. And if people don't remember that, what Sliders was, this group of people ended up sliding, trying to get back to it was almost like a budget Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
They weren't setting things right. They were just trying to get home. And so they were sliding through the multiverse, and they would always either find a place that was completely different, or they would find a place that was very similar but slightly different.
Yeah.
But their goal was to try to find their way home, sliding, and they had a time limit and whatnot. It felt like the people who wrote this were fans of that show and maybe fans of Quantum Leap. And it was like, oh, let's do this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Instead of sticking to what, because I'm gonna tell you the best episodes of, Quantum Leap was like my favorite show of all time. And some of the best Quantum Leap episodes were not a part of the main arc. The main arc was him getting back home.
Okay.
Those standalone episodes were the best. Those standalone episodes were really, really good. Same thing with Sliders. Sliders had a lot of faults with it. It was a very entertaining show. But whenever they got into the feed into the long arc and let's try to tie all the multiverses together, that's when it's sort of getting a little weird and strange. And that's sort of kind of like the feeling I got with this. It's like, if you had an episode, what if Storm became the god of thunder? Then that becomes related to your big story arc. They didn't do that.
Right.
We had to go back to the previous season to get Kahhori. You had to go back to the previous season to get Captain Carter. We got Byrdie this season, luckily.
But she was a baby, so
she was an infant. Yeah. And who was the other person in the group?
That was it.
That was it.
It was the 4 of them in Infinity Ultron.
Yeah, but you didn't. And I don't want to say it's because I didn't get an episode of Storm becoming the God of Thunder. That would have been amazing. And it probably would have changed my opinion of the season. But you can't just throw it in at the end and not give us any context.
Right.
I was a little peeved about that too. But in my opinion, I think this is a grab bag season because it's the last season. I think they had all the writers write their ideas of what they wanted to happen, and they put it in a hat, and they just went, let's see, Avengers in mech form. Okay, we'll do that. Let's see, Wild West Shang-Chi. Sure, we'll do that too. And they just started pulling stuff out of a hat because, like you said,
everybody loves Storm. Everybody loves Storm with Mjolnir. Okay, let's throw it in.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Howard the Duck. Let's give him a
background.
kid.
Just put it in the last two episodes, but because they've been waiting for it. Just because that's what Marvel loves to do is tease X-Men any way they can without giving us a proper payoff. But and I think that while I like this season, while there were some parts of it I was kind of iffy on, but all in all, I just kind of really try to just, like I've taught Anthony this season, take every episode as an individual episode and not as something that needs to link here and here.
Oh, it's taught him that, huh?
Who said he did? You said I did.
Sensei, thank you.
It's because it's like a perfect example of that is the Agatha episode. It's like I'm probably the only one of the three of us that really actually liked that episode because she doesn't like Agatha, and Anthony was just like meh because it was a weird episode to be sure. It had its problems, yes, it did. Okay. It did have its problems, but I thoroughly enjoyed how they told the story, but that's just me. I'm weird. So
let me say this. They could have given me a Storm intro episode instead of that Agatha episode, and that would have changed my because again,
okay.
At the end, these last two episodes, Agatha, Kingo, none of those characters that were in that episode had anything to do with these last two episodes. But you throw in Storm, even though I know it's rare, somebody watching this who may not be familiar with the X-Men, who may not be familiar with Storm, they're probably watching this like, who is she and why is she here? You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I know it's rare because even if you're not an avid comic book person, you pretty much know who Storm is.
And if you watch the last two seasons of What If, you would still be like,
right. Like the only people who would probably really, really be like, oh my God, Storm is in here are the people who watched X-Men 97. And this because this is literally the same Storm from the X-Men 97 animated series because the voice actress is the same one who
Alison Silly Smith.
Yeah. But yeah, they could have taken out that Agatha, especially considering we just got a whole series of Agatha. They really didn't have to bring her into What If, especially if there was going to be no payoff for the character.
Do you think they did it like because they meant to put out What If before and then have it lead into Agatha?
Nah.
Okay. I was gonna say the same with Ironheart, like because they introduced Ironheart and they're leading into Ironheart later this year.
I would more easily believe that the writers changed.
Okay.
That it was there. She was probably either her or Kang was probably going to be a part of the team at the end, and whoever was looking forward to doing the long-term plan axed it. It was like, nah, it's not going to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would believe that more than I believe that they were trying to lead in, because you already know what your audience is going to be. You don't have to advertise, oh, we're going to have an episode of Agatha. I hope that you pull in those handful of people that watched.
Right, because Agatha anybody who watched WandaVision, they would have been, I mean, that's literally the audience that was going to watch Agatha all along because, like I said, people were interested in seeing what this character was about, what her background was or whatever. It just, for me, the series just didn't do what I thought it was going to do.
And to be realistic, the audience for What If is not the same as the audience for Agatha Long.
No.
It's just not the same audience. Let's just be real. It's not. And the people who are going to watch What If are going to watch What If regardless of Agatha being the first episode or not.
Yeah.
Now they would have been interested. They're like, oh, that's interesting. And if you had tied it back and put her in the last episode as part of the Guardians of the multiverse, that would have been something to be, interested in, right?
Yeah.
Shang-Chi, not necessarily. You already have Captain Carter, who is woefully, be honest with you, underpowered to be on the Guardians of the Multiverse. Shang-Chi just punches things, which brings me back to, what is Marvel, what are they doing? Like the Thunderbolts against Sentry. Why? Like, what is the point? How are they going to stop Sentry? If you watch the last trailer, she's like, oh, all we do is shoot bullets and punch things. How are we supposed to stop this? Exactly. Exactly. So, which brings me back to the point I'm trying to make about Captain Carter. You can't have Shang-Chi in last episode because you got Captain Carter. You can't have two of them. All they do is punch things, and one throws a shield.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like the person, whoever did the overall thing of this and whatever their plan was, I'm sure they had to abandon it. That's probably why they brought Kahhori in. That's probably why they brought in Storm, because the people that you started with, it wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to work for them. Like, well, what we're planning to do is not going to work. And so we're going to have to go back to the drawing board. So they rewrote it. And that's what it feels like. Because other than Byrdie, none of the other team members make any sense based on the season.
Yeah. They probably could have brought Kingo in, and that would have made more sense, because at least Kingo is an Eternal spawned by the Celestial, so he might actually have the power.
Yeah. And I would even be okay with Peggy, because Peggy's relationship with Uatu.
Yeah, and in that sense, if they were going to bring anybody back from last season, they should have brought Black Widow, because he helped her out as well, and she was aware of him. She was aware of what he did. So I think that would have made more sense to me.
So I don't know. It feels like there was a lot of things going on that they wanted to do and it didn't make sense, or they wanted to do other things. But it is what it is. Like, I'm sure they wanted to have Riri Williams in the last episode, but because she owed him for saving her life,
right?
And that would have made sense. So I
that
don't
would
know.
Have been dope, actually,
because she would have basically have been like, almost, I don't want to say like Infinity Ultron, but she would have been pretty damn close.
Yeah.
And if you want to make an all-girls team, to do that. But someone probably said, well, we got Storm, we can't have another black girl on the team. That's not going to work.
Yep, too dark.
You know what?
That's probably what happened.
But okay, so talking about that, this is the other thing that kind of irritates me that's relating to all of that. You have this this very powerful all-girls team who is tasked with saving the multiverse here, fighting against the three Watchers. Again, going back to what we just said, why leave Black Widow out? She knew who Uatu was. She in her own right is powerful. Yes, she is a human character, doesn't have any magic, but that's one of the things that I feel like has always made Black Widow kind of valuable as well. But again, you have someone who was so important in the first two seasons. You had Black Widow in several of those episodes, but then kind of like they did in the main MCU, you kill her character off and she's not involved in the end game battle at all. Similar to this, she's so important in the first two seasons, and then in the last season, when Peggy Carter, who by all rights in the first two seasons was one of her best friends, she's nowhere to be found. I have a problem with that.
Yeah, like, why would Peggy not draft her to be to be on the Guardians of the Multiverse?
And how would she be so close to this Storm character that we've never seen before in this iteration? Now, I'm not knocking that friendship or that sisterhood, because we know that Storm has those close ties. She did with Jean Grey in X-Men 97. But here, it just, because you just threw this character in at the very last minute, it just really didn't make any sense. I'm not complaining about the fact that Storm is here. I love the fact that she was here. The fact that she came in with Mjolnir and they were like, oh, I didn't know Thor was here. That we was like, no, that's not Thor. But again, you give us no introduction to this character in this particular universe. You don't give us any background. You don't tell us how she came to be part of Peggy's group. Again, you could have taken out the Agatha episode. You could have put in a Storm episode introducing her. I would have been way.
It's all about context and connections. It's like you can't do both and be good at both. You had to do one or the other. Either you wanted the stories to be cohesive and connected to lead to a cultivating moment, or you wanted to have these standalone episodes. The problem is if you do both, you're gonna kind of get some mixed messages, giving mixed messages to your audience. So that's how you end up with Storm. You didn't have a Storm episode, but you give us a Storm.
Right.
You know, also
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Also, right when Peggy was getting ready to leave and try to recruit Ultron, she looked at a picture of all the Guardians of the Galaxy, and everybody was in it. Like Byrdie was in it, Kahhori was in it. Also, Thor was in it, Gamora was in it, T'Challa Star-Lord was in it, and Black Widow was in that picture. So there is a link where they could have called any one of them to come and help them. So it's like they knew each other. They knew each other very well because the picture is a fun picture where they're posing all wild and shit. So it's like she could have gone and got him, anybody she wanted to.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I think overall, I will say for the 3 seasons, I enjoyed most of it more than I didn't enjoy it. I just think this last season was just kind of all over the place. And although there were episodes that I really did like in this 3rd season, I just don't feel like the ending, the finale that we got matched 3 seasons worth of what we had been getting. It just, I don't know. It just feels incomplete to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just thought of the Red Guardian and Winter Soldier episode. What was the point of that? Like, what did that give us?
I probably want to say that was more likely kind of what we just said a few minutes ago. That's kind of giving us a little bit of an introduction to those 2 characters together before the Thunderbolts. That's what I think.
Y'all are trying to do too much. Y'all are trying to do too much.
Yeah.
Trying to do too much.
But again, it's a typical what if episode. It's like what if the Red Guardian stopped the Winter Soldier from killing Howard Stark?
Yeah, and see
it's a what if episode.
It's a what if episode. Bother me as much, especially considering we have seen Bucky in one of the in other what if episodes. So it's not like they just randomly threw him in there, and it's just kind of like what?
Yeah, but it's obviously an intro to the characters being together for Thunderbolts, especially with the car chase scene on Route 66.
Yeah,
we're gonna see it in the movie.
Yeah.
But
I've noticed. Okay, so when you think about that stuff, okay, and we're gonna talk about Captain America: Brave New World later on, but there was a certain thing that happened in that movie that I was like, wait, didn't we get kind of a hint about that in What If last season? I was like, oh, okay. We'll talk about it later on because I don't want to spoil anybody who didn't come here expecting Captain America spoilers. But there's a certain scene, a certain cameo that happens in the movie, and it's like, what? And then I said, oh wait, they did this in What If last season. So, but yeah,
they did. They really did.
So and, it doesn't.
That we'll talk about it later, but that was a freaking reshoot. They just threw that shit in there, and we're gonna talk about that later.
Well, yeah, but yeah. So I don't think that episode didn't bother me as much. Also because you guys know how I feel about Bucky, so I don't mind seeing a Bucky episode. And I guess that's kind of biased because, like Mike said, I'm really not an Agatha fan. So I really could have done without that Agatha episode. It wouldn't have bothered me, although I do like Kingo. But again, I just feel like a missed opportunity for a Storm episode was in there. Like they
It
just,
was
yeah,
definitely in there. And when
yeah.
you step back, I mean, I know I said the same thing. I liked that episode with Red Guardian Buck. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
But when you step back, it doesn't really fit in the motif
Yeah.
of the season.
Yeah.
Just like the Agatha episode.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It really or the Shang-Chi episode.
Yeah.
You can't do both. You gotta do one or the other.
Yeah.
You know.
Especially
And
when the first two
they
seasons
did
you actually
you did
followed
it.
a
Right.
formula and
Right.
to get to a specific conclusion for the series for the season. So yeah. But I don't know. I guess at this point it's over. I'm kind of glad it's over now. Like I really did love this show the first two seasons, but like I said, this third season just felt a little disjointed. And unfortunately, we've been feeling a lot about the MCU, especially in the last phase. It's just kind of like hit or miss, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know what they're doing, but it just I don't know. They really kind of they missed an opportunity for this show to go out on a very high note. You know, my personal opinion, it just didn't. It just kind of fell flat for me. Like I liked learning more about Uatu. I liked learning about his history with the Watchers, how he became a Watcher. I liked seeing his change of heart over the last three seasons, how he went from this cold, unfeeling, oh, I'm just observing, type of person to a person who actually grew because of his connection to humanity. I like seeing that. I like seeing, character growth and character change like that. But I don't know. It just didn't. It didn't do for me what I was expecting a final season to do. So yeah.
I agree.
I liked it. I was thoroughly entertained by all three seasons. I I mean, there were some moments where you're kind of like, that's questionable. But again, like I said when we first started covering What If, this is probably one of my favorite comic series of all time because it really sparks my imagination where you kind of think you kind of make up your own what if scenarios when you read them. Like it's like you can like think of, oh, well, what if instead of Wolverine having adamantium claws, Cyclops had adamantium claws? Or what if Nightcrawler had Charles Xavier's telepathic ability? Like, it's like you kind of throw yourself into making up those kind of scenarios, and that's why I really really loved this series as a kid, and even as a teen, even as a really young ass acting adult Gen Xer. I still love those series, and again it's like our friend Lori says, we're in one of the best times to be a geek because there's so much nerd shit out that people are getting greenlit to actually put out. Like no one, I wouldn't know you thought in a million years I would see a what if cartoon series, a series of what if comics being made into cartoons, or even new ones being created and turned into what ifs. It's like this is really cool for me and my teenage self when I first found What If Comics to actually be able to see it on a screen and be able to talk with other fellow nerds about it and then be happy that I have these things. So I am ecstatic. I love this whole series, and I'm I'm sad to see it go, but I feel like this season kind of showed that they were getting weary and tired and just kind of throwing stuff out there. And this would have and if they did another season, I think it would have just been it would have just not have had the same energy as it had when it first started. Like it's already starting to get tired, and I don't want to see it. I want to see something I love just being relegated and just kind of half-assed. You know what I'm saying? So I'm kind of glad they're not doing another one. I wouldn't mind seeing a movie about it, but yeah. But I still thoroughly enjoyed most of these.
Um, I I completely feel where you're coming from. I do. What If is also one of my favorite series, and it has its roots in the Choose Your Own Adventure books for me,
Yes,
because
absolutely.
you always think about the different possibilities of things that
Hmm.
can happen, and I'm gonna name I'm gonna talk our friend of the show Nick and I always get into these arguments. I'm sorry, these heated
Discussion.
discussions
Discussion.
about about just being happy that something is being made.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just be happy there's another Star Wars TV show. Just be happy that there's another Star Trek movie. Just be happy there's another MCU movie. It's
I
not
know where
enough.
you're going.
It's not enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
It is not enough. I need more. You know what I
Need
mean?
quality, need
It
consistency.
Yeah.
just because I'm a fan of your show, just because I love your property, just because the intellectual property is my fandom, doesn't mean I have to eat it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying not to curse. I You don't have to. What is that? What is that? Told Nick? Don't pee on me and call it rain. Don't do that to me. I want. I like. Okay, I'm as big a fan of popcorn flicks as anyone. I like going to the movies and seeing. If I go to the movies and I see something and I can enjoy it. The John Wick movies are like that. You don't expect them to be, these great masterpieces of work. They're fun
Right.
and entertaining.
That's how Fast and Furious is for me. Like,
Fast and the Furious,
Exactly. Yes,
same thing.
Fast
It's
and
fun.
Furious.
As
Exactly.
much as I dog those movies, I still go and watch them.
mm-hmm,
I still laugh, and it is a fun time, and it's fun to make fun of those movies.
mm-hmm,
But I can't, for some reason, I have a hard time doing that because the expectation level that Marvel has created
yeah,
Right.
and the quality of the
mm-hmm,
stuff they were doing
yeah,
versus what's happening now.
yeah,
Like you started out at the popcorn flick level with the first Iron Man,
mm-hmm,
or Blade, because Michelle and I recently watched Blade again, and Blade is a fun movie,
mm-hmm,
right?
Hmm.
yeah,
It's not a great film. It's
mm-hmm,
got a lot of problems, but it's a fun movie.
yeah,
Expectation level is low. But then when you get into the Avengers, and then you start getting into Endgame and movies that kind of matter, that's why Ant-Man Quantumania was such a letdown. You, MCU, they keep Kevin Feige, I'm gonna blame him for it. They keep putting out these properties and these things that just aren't quality. Like I can't even enjoy watching Secret Invasion. It's terrible. Eternals is an artsy film. I can enjoy it from an artsy perspective, but I can see why a lot of people didn't like it. It was for them. It was like it wasn't an MCU movie.
mm-hmm,
It was just this thing that happens in the MCU.
yeah.
So same thing with Black Widow movie. I guess it was supposed to be fun, but the Taskmaster was a disaster.
Please don't get Mike started. Please don't get
I'm
Mike
not.
started.
Not. I'm not. And
The movie hasn't even come out yet. I'm not
okay,
even. I'm
I'm,
not
I'm
even
gonna
ready
end.
to
I'm
get
gonna
ramped up
end.
about that.
I'm just gonna say that I understand where Mike is coming from. I would like to sit here and say that you can watch What If just for the entertainment value, but it's hard because some of the stuff just doesn't really make any sense. It's hard to be entertained by something that just kind of like, what? And you just leave your head scratching.
Yeah.
Like, why is Storm here? Just why? Why? You might as well you could have made up a whole team of people we had never seen before
Mm-hmm.
because it doesn't really work for me.
Right.
And we'll talk more about this on our episode about um Captain America and the Winter Soldier Part 2 because when we
You
talk
mean the
about
Incredible Hulk part two? We'll get into
we'll
it, but
we'll we'll, we'll come back
yeah,
to that
yeah,
and we'll stick a pin in it. But the same thing that I'm talking about now applies to that thing that we're going to talk about,
mm-hmm.
where just don't give me a movie and be like, here you go, enjoy. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. I
Mm-hmm.
would story time.
Hmm.
A long time ago, I used to take Bailey to Brewster's.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to call it a date, but I would just take her. so we can hang out. We get Brewster's ice cream, and this time Valentine's Day, I said, you know what? It's been years since I took her to get Brewster's ice cream, and I remember Brewster's ice cream being so good. Got Brewster's ice cream, and now in my old age, is overpriced, and I'm eating ice cream, and it's freezer burn, and I'm sitting there like, do I really remember what it was like being with her and hanging out with her? Or has ice cream, and the ice cream has always been like this, but I just didn't care. Don't give me freezer burn ice cream.
Right.
I really want some quality ice cream. Even if I didn't get it before, you fooled me and made me think that's what I was getting.
Yeah.
Just give me that. That's what I want. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
I know I kind of went off the rails. I'm getting off the soapbox now.
No.
I mean, and no. I mean, related to that, I think that a lot of it is nostalgia based, just like a lot of things, where it's like you see something and you're like, oh man, I remember that. And you kind of give it a pass because it's something that evokes a feeling and evokes a memory for you. So you're like, oh, okay, it wasn't the best written, it wasn't the best acted, the effects were kind of fucked up, but that's what it is. But I actually got to see it again, so it's fine, whatever. And that's basically what it is. It's like you see things and you're like, okay, well, you kind of let things slide just so you could get that feeling again. It's like one of the most addictive drugs is nostalgia. Nostalgia is one of the most addictive drugs there is, because you get to see things where you were happier and it gives you that feeling again, and you're like, oh man, I remember that. But then when it's gone, you're like, shit, how can I feel that way again? And you keep going back for it and back for it and back for it. It's just like, it really affects you like that.
We're all chasing the MCU high.
Yeah. chasing the MCU, chasing that nostalgia dragon.
Yeah. So, okay, well, I think we have talked this episode to death at this point. Mike got something else to say. What you got to say, Mike?
Okay, so first off, shout out to Alison Seeley Smith for getting another thing in the MCU. I'm so glad that she's finally getting her due. That was awesome. Her, Devery Jacobs, and Natasha Lyonne were really good in this episode. I appreciated their efforts. Shout out to Darcy for inventing trans-universal communication so she could keep track of Byrdie and ask her for the donuts that make her lose weight. I need to find out exactly what universe that's in so I can handle that too. Shout out to Byrdie being a mechanical genius just like her mom, and the levels of energy that she created in the to see when that pod could get to the other dimension. It started with Crapola, it went to Loserville, then Lame City, then Now We're Talking, then Rad Sauce, then Straight Fire, and it ended in Money with what looked like Scrooge McDuck. I'm thinking it's probably her. It was probably Howard at the end, but it looked just like Scrooge McDuck, and it had like the dollar signs. I'm like, that had to be Scrooge McDuck.
It was Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah,
I thought.
I'm like, and there's your Disney MCU crossover, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to that Marvel Foods Table being so fucking rad. Like, I want one of those so badly. I can't play foosball for shit, but I'm like, yeah, I gotta have that.
I don't even like foosball. It's like, I gotta have that table.
Exactly. I'm like, that shit's dope as fuck. Like, I gotta have it. Shout out to Heavy Metal Storm hitting the shard with her hammer, and them fucking shredding, and like the wind blowing and her almost getting there. Like that really that affected the metal guy, the rock and roll part of me. I was like, this is a dope ass scene.
Oh, honorable mention when she says, I used to control nature. Now I
am nature. Yeah. Shout out to the three watchers when they combined together to clear out everybody's multiverse at the end. Like when they were spinning, they looked like they had three heads, and it reminded me of the Living Tribunal, which is like is an overpowered being in the Marvel universe that is like overall and is like judging. I'm wondering if they're trying to say that's what they become when they try, that they have the power to become the Living Tribunal, but it looked just like them. It's like a being with three faces, and it looked really cool. That animation with them like losing them, like the multiple versions of them like going away, like like being blown off of them was really fucking cool.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Also at the end, this is what I was doing while you guys were talking. I wrote down all of in the end scroll there were like versions of superheroes that were flashing by. I wrote down as many as I could. First, we saw the 8-armed Spider-Man, which is actually in a comic. There's a version of that in Spider-Man lore. There's Ghost Rider Samurai, which looked dope as fuck. I'm totally down for that shit. There was Riri as the Punisher, that was just re damn ridiculous. Like, holy shit. There was Gamora as a bride. I'm like, did they say Gamora and Kill Bill? Like, or are they making Gamora marry somebody? Like, did Gamora marry Peter Quill? That's kind of weird. But she was dressed up as a bride, so I'm like, okay. Then there was Vision dressed up as a knight. I'm actually down for that too. Like shit. After that, there was Thanos as Weapon X, like with the adamantium claws and the helmet when Logan first got the adamantium infusion. I was like, I don't want to see that. Like, we don't need that. Nah. But after that, there was Kingo as Iron Man, which was really intriguing. I was like, cause I looked at it, I was like, is that Kingo? But he had an Iron Man suit on. And I'm like, so what if the Eternals literally took the place of the Avengers? Like Kingo is Iron Man. You could have someone be like have one of them be like have other guys be Thor and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm like, that actually is kind of intriguing. Like if they actually took, because remember in the movie they said they didn't interfere. They're like, well, we could call the Avengers, and they were like, they laughed at it. So maybe this time they actually were like, well, let's just take their place and save the world. So
what if Kango just bought Stark Industries? Or what if he saved Stark in the Middle East?
He already has a relationship with Howard Stark.
Yeah.
Also, there was Miss Marvel. There was the Wasp with Miss Marvel powers, like with the power. I was like, huh. Then there was Maestro with Sorcerer Supreme powers. That shit's scary. I don't know if I want to see that.
I'm not familiar with Maestro.
Maestro's a smart. He's an older version of the.
He's a future version of the Hulk after Bruce died.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I want that. Then there was one of my personal favorites, Howard the Duck as a vampire. Yes, I love that one.
Yeah.
I think I actually saw that as a comic. I'm not sure. I can't remember.
I had heard a rumor that we will see some of those versions. That there was a reason that they showed those versions of those characters.
What, then maybe Secret Wars?
Possibly. Maybe,
yeah.
Then there's Jubilee in some. She looks like Storm. She has like light for eyes. Like maybe it's an elevated Jubilee. Then there's is Cap as a zombie again. Like we need to see that.
Wait, you skipped one. The one after Howard the Duck, it was somebody, some kind of creature with a bow and arrow.
It kind of looks like Beta Ray Bill.
I would know. I don't freeze frame anymore, so
you know what?
Yeah, but shout out to them for some reason. I think this is them keeping the door open for maybe changing their mind about doing it. I mean, they are kind of apt to doing that sometimes. Like
who was the pirate? The pirate and the chick, was that
that's
Black
what I was trying to figure out, because it looks like,
because it looked like Medusa, but
are they dancing? Like the ones that are dancing at the end?
Yeah, they like pirates.
No, not pirates. One of them looks like he's in a tuxedo, and the female almost looks like Cersei from the Eternals.
Yeah, it was weird.
So maybe it's Cersei and what's his name?
It's not Icarus. It
could be Black Knight.
You know what? It could be, because he is dark haired. But it looks like, I don't know. It looks like a version of Howard Stark.
When they brought up the idea of the multiverse way back when, because we've had this conversation and we talked about this back when they first started, and I was like, this is literally their opportunity to do whatever they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they can bring Black Panther back if they want to.
Yeah.
They have ways, they have reasons, they have the opportunity. And
I saw they were looking at. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
well, I was gonna say I'm not gonna fault them for leaning into it because they have invested so much into it. I know a lot of people are kind of tired of this multiverse thing, but the MCU, Marvel, Disney, they have leaned into it. Like they are all in on the multiverse thing, and they're gonna make it work, whether we want them to or not. But I warned everyone way back when that this was going to be a problem.
Yeah.
That they introduced
Yes.
this and it was going to be an issue, and it's starting to be an issue now. They're going to have to figure out a way to rein this in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want to say I hate them for it, but they had if I could see it coming, people smarter than me who work there should have seen this coming. That people were going to get tired of it, that it was going to be confusion, and it's going to be weird, and people are going to be like, what are they doing? And characters can come back and characters can die. It's a lot. And then when you extend it to all your other properties and the ramifications of what if on this whole idea of a multiverse, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is
It's just
a lot.
it's just. I mean, yeah. I think we were talking about it. I said that if they do this and they do it wrong, it's going to be a fucking disaster.
And are we even? I know we're gonna talk about this later, but is this Captain America movie even in the right universe?
We'll talk about that later because there's a lot to unpack with Captain America. So
is not whatchamacallit.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in detail because there's a lot to unpack with that particular movie. So yeah.
But my point is I think they have bitten off a whole lot more than they can chew. And hopefully they use Secret Wars as a way to, and I think hopefully that's what they're going to do as a way to just reset and get rid of the multiverse and kind of start over.
Okay.
Yeah. And they also have a mega Deadpool in here. I do think that it seems like it almost looks like Howard Stark dancing with Cersei.
Okay, that's what it looks like.
Then there's like Hera as a child, it looks like. And then it's like Quill with the 5 rings or something. And then it gets bright and you can't really tell. But it seems like it does seem to me like they're kind of leaving the door open to maybe revisiting some of this later.
I'm just glad you didn't do that when the Eminence was trying to get rid of all of the versions of Captain Carter and Kahhori. Right. I'm glad you didn't sit there and try to freeze frame those guys. There was a lot of them.
Ain't nobody got time for that. Like that was a lot. I mean, I saw like primitive versions. I saw like medieval versions. I saw
there was this armor, incredible looking version of Captain Carter that just looked like she was probably gonna blow shit up. She was huge and had all this armor on.
Yeah.
But anyway, she looked scary.
Yeah. Shout out to Byrdie having among her powers of light up wings and the jewel on her head shooting laser beams. She also has duck wrist, which is a very very low key and rare power that she uses to play foosball and beat Kahhori. But yeah, I thought this was awesome, not just because of my favorite niece Byrdie the Duck, but I mean, I actually really enjoyed all of this. And if they decide to do it, I hope they do a more cohesive job with it. Maybe they're just giving it a rest for a minute, which is fine, which is absolutely fine, where they can do something and not have fatigue where they have to keep forcing episodes out. And maybe they'll revisit it, maybe they won't, but I enjoyed the ride for what it was.
Well, unless anyone has anything else to say about this episode, that is it for our show. You can find us online at www.fandomhybrid.com. We are on social media, on all the social media at Fandom Hybrid. You can chat with us on our Discord channel. You can watch our videos on our YouTube channel, and you can listen to us on all major podcast streaming platforms. Thanks for listening. We hope you join the conversation next time.
Hybrid out!